You are listening to an exclusive interview on Bass Musician Magazine. The interview starts now.
Hey everybody, Raul here for Bass Musician Magazine, and today we have the great honor and pleasure of chatting with not just the bassist, but the vocalist as well, Raya Yarbrough, Pete Griffin. How you guys doing?
Great.
Good.
Great. Because I want our readership to get to know you a little bit, I'll start with you, Raya. Tell us a little bit how you got started in music and singing.
That whole story is actually the backstory to the record that we just released. I started singing in clubs on Hollywood Boulevard when I was 7, after my parents got divorced. And this whole record, North of Sunset, West of Vine, this cardinal directions, is really about the experiences that I had playing in clubs on that street and the people I met and the bizarre atmosphere. So my superhero origin story is actually is this record, kind of.
Very, very cool. And Pete, how did you get started in music?
Kind of a little more normal than playing club when I was 7. I started on trumpet in elementary school. I liked it, but I didn't love it. And then my folks just kind of randomly bought me a bass for Christmas. I knew I wanted a new instrument, but I didn't know what. And they knew a friend of mine was getting a guitar, so in order to be in a band with them, they got me a bass, which was actually really smart of them because most bass players started on guitar. I can't play guitar at all. I'm actually terrible at it, anything more than 1 or 2 notes at a time, and I get confused. It sort of was like serendipity that I found this instrument that fits my personality so well. I like being on stage, but I don't want to be the center of attention the entire time and everything. So my parents chose wisely for me, and I'm eternally grateful for them. It caused some problems later on when I realized that I wanted to do that more than I wanted to study in school. But we found a good sort of balance for those two things. And then after that, I just kind of fell deep into music of all sorts. Went to music school, and then moved out here to LA, which is where both of us live. And then the rest is history, I guess.
How did the two of you connect to work together?
Well, that was, I think it's like almost 7 years ago now, Raya?
Yeah, probably.
Where we did a Queen tribute. Which is strangely topical now that movie is out, with Raya's husband and her brother-in-law singing, both Bear and Brendan McCreary. And then we had an amazing band with Joe Travers, who I've been playing with in Zappa Plays Zappa, on drums, Mike Keneally on guitar, Rick Masalem on guitar, Brendan Small from Death Clock on guitar, and a bunch of other just amazing musicians. And Bear was playing keys, and we sort of all just loved working together so much from that both Bear started hiring me for some of his TV and movie work, and then Raya hired me to start playing with her band as well. So, and Brendan did as well also. So yeah. we kind of all got along so well that we decided to just keep making music together in one form or another.
Very nice. Raya, I can't help but mention, because I am a huge sci-fi geek, and I've listened to so much of your vocals on Galactica.
Yeah.
Which is even though now in the box set, and occasionally we'll hear it, but even before we were chatting, I was listening and going, wow, I didn't, now to put the face to the voice is always such an honor. Getting back to the current project, North of Sunset, West on Vine, originally was a musical you guys were doing in around 2013?
Yeah, I think, gosh, that sounds like a long time ago now.
Yeah, really.
So it was originally a series of stories I wrote from my life. And then from that, it became kind of like a cabaret, like one-woman show thing I did at a bunch of clubs around Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. It was like spoken word and music together. And then I thought, wait, no, this actually wants to be a play. So we mounted it on stage with like a cast of 6 people. Fun fact, one of the cast members was the guy who played Colonel Ty on Battlestar Galactica.
I saw that, yes.
Yeah, super fun.
That was pretty cool.
He's amazing. So that ran for a little while, and then it was funny. After that, I kind of had to come all the way back around, and I was like, you know what? I just really want this to be a concept record. That's what I really want more than anything else. Mm-hmm. It was about 2 years in the recording process with this. Part of that is because I had a child during that, and that takes time. That takes an unexpected amount of time, actually. Yes. So the record took a little longer than I thought it was going to, but I'm happy that I got to keep core musicians such as Pete on the record, because he adds a lot. I mean, I'll just speak from kind of a band leader perspective. When you find a person like Pete, you need to keep him. because I have a lot of weird musical requests in my band. Like I do jazz, but then I do stuff that's a little more rocky, a little more fusiony, a little more Latin-y, and Pete's just like, let's do it, you know? And that's just invaluable. It makes me feel really free to compose and explore whatever I want, because I know that pretty much whatever I put in front of him, he's gonna nail.
The fact that you're realizing this too, because I imagine most successful vocalists will capture that the bass can color what you're doing.
Yeah.
And those subtleties that he's putting many times are the things that will punch the audience kind of in the chest, even though they're hearing what you're doing, but it gives it that twist that you go, oh, okay, yeah, I feel sad, or I feel your pain, or I feel your happiness. A lot of times it's those subtle little notes out of the shadows in the back, and behind so many great vocalists and musicians, I think a lot of people may not realize that they've got that bass line kind of locked in their head, and they'll hear it and they'll go, oh yeah, it can be even a couple of notes from the bass, and you go, okay, I know what song is coming, I'm ready to hear this.
Exactly. A lot of people don't even realize that, like, on their favorite songs, the hook is actually the bass line.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they think it's the chorus and what people are singing. It's really the bass line. It's really what people are singing with. Yeah.
And Raya's writing really kind of speaks to that in a lot of ways. There's a lot of moments where it's just bass and voice, like the beginning of Whatever Lola Wants, and there's
which we're making a video for today.
Oh, well, there you go.
I
didn't even know that. I'm staying on point here. That's what's so cool about this. Her parts is like it's not terribly difficult music, but it's important. Like the parts are really that she writes, and like I've put my fingerprints on it, but it really is still coming from her writing, which is what's so cool when someone knows what they want, but then they also can let you do what you do within those parameters. That makes it. Raya mentioned having freedom. That gives me the freedom to be like, hey, let me try something a little different here. Let me try a different tone. Let me try a slightly different approach. And she, like, unless she doesn't like it, she just lets me go ahead and do it. And then if she doesn't, she tells me, and we figure that out too, you know. So it's a really cool kind of working relationship where everybody gets something positive out of it. I'm not just here for the paycheck, and she's just not here to have me read note for note what she's written. Mm-hmm. There's sort of a synergy thing going on. And because I did do the musical, I like being a part of bringing these stories to life. You know, I think the album really kind of still, it's almost, she mentioned concept album, there's almost like a prog rock thing to it, which is more what I grew up on, where if you listen to the whole thing, there is a story that's told that you can kind of take away from it. And the more you listen to it, the more details you get. And that's even for me as just a fan of listening to it. Coming back to the record, having recorded all these tunes, I'm like, oh, I never noticed she said that in this line. And that references a different song, and there's a lot of cool little kind of Easter eggs like that on the album.
I looked at the trailer and I noticed that I think I saw you playing some upright too. With this album, are you doing both upright and electric?
Yeah, definitely. I'm more of an electric player, but luckily my upright playing is good enough for Raya. But I think that kind of goes along with what you were saying before, where I can cover a lot of ground, where I might not be the most perfect straight-ahead jazz player, but the most perfect straight-ahead jazz player might have some trouble with the 90s R&B stuff with an octave pedal that I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And, you know, like the sort of back and forth of that keeps me on my toes, keeps the listener on their toes, makes it so that the shows have a cool dynamic for it, where I'm switching instruments almost between every song. And it kind of makes it so that the background keeps changing. You know, like the sort of music behind her keeps changing while her voice is the constant.
Very nice. And I know that my people won't forgive me, but I do have to ask about gear. What are you using to get your voice, Pete?
Well, my upright is nothing too special. It's a Chinese-made upright that I got here in LA that just works. I wish I could invest in one of those like 1800s things, but I don't have hundreds of dollars lying around, and then more to insure it. But for the record, I believe the main bass I used was my Fender Dimension 5-string. A lot of Raya's stuff has some low notes on it. The Dimension I kind of got randomly. I wasn't expecting to like it, but I really, really do. It has a nice kind of beefed up jazz bass kind of sound to it. It looks like it's going to sound more like a Stingray, but it's a little closer to just kind of like a nice active jazz bass. And the B string is nice and tight on it. Something they said when they were making it was they used less powerful magnets in the pickups so that there's less pull on the actual string. So I've found that on the B string on that bass, I don't have to wail on it as hard as I do on some of my other B strings just to get the note to speak. I can kind of play with the same tension and attack that I do on the other strings. And that's really helpful because you don't, on something like that, like Raya stuff that's a little more kind of singer-songwriter-y, ballad kind of thing, you don't want to suddenly have some low notes jumping out with some clanky tone because I have to hit it. I can just play it the way I normally play.
Any other things? Strings, amplifier?
I've always used Ashdown amps pretty much my entire career. They've been very, very good to me. I love those amps. I'm about to go out on a tour where I get to use my own giant two 410 cabinets and the 500 watt head and have someone set it up for me every day, which is always wonderful.
That's nice.
Yeah, exactly. But then even in town, I have a little like one-hander Ashdown combo that I use that I love, the Rootmaster. And effects, I have a lot. Here, I can show you. I have this whole pile here. Not very well organized.
The stash.
But I actually kind of know. I actually do, in fact, know what they all do. But for her stuff, it's mostly an octave pedal. I like the MXR Bass Octave Deluxe or whatever it's called, and the Octabass is pretty great too. The new MXR Sub-Octave Bass Fuzz is awesome because it has some distortion on it as well. And then I'm trying to think if I use any other effects. Not too much. I think it was mostly just Octaver to get kind of like a 90s R&B synth bass kind of sound while still having the technique of an electric bass.
Well, and Raya, I know this is like the old Tim the Toolman Taylor for bass gear. When we're it's what we get all excited. Everybody's all excited about. You getting yeah, whatever. But let's
it's
talk.
Important. It's important.
It is. Yeah. And a lot of times I think the greatest form of a compliment is when other musicians hear somebody like Pete playing and they go, I want that sound. And I want to duplicate that. What were the elements that he had involved to get there? But let's leave gear and move ahead.
I think the main thing is taste.
Yes.
I think taste is really what you need to have.
Yeah. And that comes back to Raya's writing as well, because like she knows when she wants an octave pedal, or when she thinks you like, let's try it in here. It's not. I'm not shooting in the dark here to find the tone that she's looking for. She can give me like some really cool direct information that I can then take and be like, well, that's this pedal or this bass or whatever. It's not. I'm not just guessing and like, hey, I got a new pedal. I need to try it today. Like I would never do that on a creative thing. So I guess that gets back to the taste aspect of it.
Sure.
I remember there's this one show where I had completely changed a bass line to a song. I forget which one it was, but like on the chorus, I totally like changed the groove. And so we rehearsed it, and then like we got to sound check and we were running it, and I was like, I think this isn't working. I think the original bass line is better. And I remember, Pete, it was so funny. You were like, I'm so glad you said that. I freaking hated that new line. I'm so glad we went back to that. And it was so cool because, like, I was like, yeah, thank you. I'm so glad that you feel the same way. But also, like, you were professional enough. You were like, if you want to go in this direction, we can go in this direction. But I also really liked knowing your opinion when we went back. I was like, okay, that's very gratifying to know that, like, you feel I went in the right direction.
Very nice.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Well, and from that creative point, knowing exactly what it is that the music is asking for in the moment is such an important part. And that is why there's so many genres that have no pedals. You look back at some of the old Motown or I think Steely Dan and things like this. Before a lot of that, the newer stuff, it was just straight bass, strings, into an amp, and that was the whole thing. And the way you affected change was the instrument or the strings or the amplifier if you were using tubes or not using tubes. But thanks to technology, we have some options. They don't always lend themselves to a lot of new stuff, so it's nice to see them incorporated and worked in. Moving away from gear, what's coming next? The CD launched in October, so a couple months ago. Is there a tour plan or what's next?
Well, I just got through shooting 2 music videos in 2 days, and I'm shooting the last one in this series today. Mm-hmm. I usually have really big curly hair, but it's all slicked back right now because I have to wear a whole bunch of wigs all day. So I'm actually kind of self-conscious about this, but I'm hoping it's working.
Yeah.
Great.
So I have a show on November 14th at the Baked Potato. Unfortunately, Pete's going to be out of town for that one, which is a huge bummer. But you still come to the show. It'll be like a B- because he won't be there. But still come. The potatoes are amazing.
Yes.
And then next year we're going to continue to probably play the Potato again. That's kind of a home base for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
And just a lot of other places in LA. I'm going to try to hit San Francisco and some along the East Coast as well. So there are more things coming, but the record's available right now, and there's going to be a lot more media, and I'll make it really easy to know what I'm up to. Yeah.
And where would be the best place for people to look? Would that be at rayayarbrough.com?
Yes, rayayarbrough.com is regularly updated, and it's got all the links to the record and everything I'm up to.
And Pete, I know you have your own website as well. It's shameless self-promotion, PeteGriffinBass.com.
Yep, that's right. Or you can follow me on Instagram, Pete Griffin Bass, or find me on Facebook. Like I said, I'll be doing a tour all through North America over the next month and a half with this guitar extravaganza called Generation Axe with Steve Vai and Yngwie Malmsteen and Nuno Betancourt and Zach Wilde and Tosin Abasi.
Wow.
And I'm playing bass for all of them. So go to generationx.com and find out when we're coming to your town and watch me sweat my butt off on stage. Run around trying to keep up with these guys.
There you go. The old fingers are going to need an ice pack every night.
Oh yeah, we've had. I was just telling Raya, we've had 2 11-hour days of rehearsal over the last 2 days, and that's what I'm going to go do now. Is do another 11 hours and then get on the bus. At some point, I have to put some clothing in a bag. I'll find some time to do that.
There you go. Well, thank you guys so much for taking time to share about this project, about upcoming projects, talk about the gear. Of course, we wish you the most success. Keep us in the loop about what's going on, because we always like to share that with our community. Folks, you've seen them here. Raya Yarbrough, Pete Griffin, coming to you live on Bass Musician Magazine.
Thanks for bassing out with us here on bassmusicianmagazine.com.